Okay, today I want to share something that's a very fond memory of mine and a very special period of my life. I'm going to show you the apartment that I grew up in. I didn't grow up in it. The apartment that I lived in for like 7 years. And I haven't been here in so many years. I'm looking at it right now. I'm going to turn around. And this is it right here. That second floor, they've painted it green. It used to be tan. But this is a place that has since been purchased since I lived there, and they kind of redid it and updated it and probably fixed. Pretty much built a new house within the house. And before I left here and moved out, I was getting married. I made a video of it because that's how much it meant to me. It represented so many wonderful years. I loved living there, and I just wanted to make a video of it before I left. And so I'm going to show you that video here in just a second. But before I do, I just wanted to share with you some memories that I had living here. One big memory was I filmed a movie in that top floor called the Turtleneck Club. And I pretty much moved my stuff out, whatever little I had in there, bought a bunch of stuff from thrift stores. It was a huge endeavor that I took on and created basically a whole movie set inside there. I'll always look back on it as just one of the big moments, big things that I did. Also, this is really close to the Arkansas River. We have something called the Riverside Trail that has been unbelievably developed since, but before it was developed, on the other side, there was an amphitheater. There was this huge basketball, tennis court, just open area. And it was pretty much abandoned. Like, no one really went over there, rarely. And I remember there was a period where I was break dancing, and I would get up in the morning, like 6 o'clock in the morning when it was dark, and I would go over there and I would break dance. And I remember there would be early morning runners in the dark. They're seeing this person break dance over there, and they would just like be running and then would just stop and just kind of put their hands on their hips and just be looking at me, wondering like, what's going on over there. One of the shots you'll see in the video, actually that's it. That's the building. I knew a friend of a friend that lived up on one of those upper floors. And so one of the opening shots of the video, that's where we got that shot. You'll see it, and it kind of covers the area and then starts to zoom in on this house here. As part of the Turtleneck Club movie, I made these backdrops and had the guys who were in it talk about being in it. And when that part was done, I hung them on the wall outside right above the stairs. Looks like they've completely rebuilt the stairs, which they were ready to fall down at any moment by the time I left. Also, there was a guy named William that would sit right there on that perch. It was just like a hangout spot for him. And I remember one time I was up on that deck up there, and I had an empty thing of milk, and the trash is right over close to this fence. And so I threw it, and it made it in the trash can, and he stood up and was like, "Oh, right." And it was such a funny memory. Another thing I did was I just had an idea that I wanted to invite people over, line up a table with a bunch of eggs, lettuce, and tomatoes, and have them make a video, and they're gonna throw all this stuff at me as I'm running down the stairs. I was kind of experimenting with YouTube and doing stuff with YouTube, and so that was a video that I made. And the egg, if you can imagine the smell, it basically cooked on the wall. And it was a good like 2 weeks where it was pretty unbearable to smell that going up and down the stairs. I had really cool neighbors throughout this period. One of the first guys that was one of my neighbors went on to be this big real estate guy, works downtown now, and that was so interesting. When I moved into this place, it did not have a shower. The shower was completely gutted. There was nothing there. And so for 1 or 2 years, I would only shower 1 or 2 times a week. I would go to my parents to do laundry, and that's when I would shower. I fortunately found out about myself that I really don't smell that bad if I don't shower, and I was able to get away with it. But in the summer, I would walk down to a park that's over here, and the park had a splash pad. You know where we're going with this. And I would have shorts, put shorts on and some sandals. I would get like a small container of shampoo, and I would walk down there and I would turn that splash pad on. I would shower. You know, at the time, that was a lot of homeless people lived over there and would stay over there. So I kind of fit in. It wasn't like, you know, something too terribly out of the norm, what I was doing. But I remember that being such a good memory. I'll show you a video of that area. Okay, so I'm now at this park that is really close to the apartment. The apartment is really in that general area over there, and it'd probably take 5 to 10 minutes to walk over there. But what I'm interested in seeing is this right here is the splash pad, which was also my shower. And I don't know if it even is still functional, but let's see. It's there's a little button right there. So let's just see. Pushing the button. And I'm not seeing anything happen, but what would happen is water would shoot up over here. Water would shoot up out of these. There's the little spots right there, see it? The water would come up out of this. And then I would just have a little bottle of like hotel shampoo. I would be wearing shorts, and I would just come here and wash my hair and lather up, and and you know, it would be common for there to be some homeless people just sleeping right over there right while I was doing it. You know, and I loved that. That was something that is such a fond memory, and I loved how it was just like the simplicity of it. So unfortunately it's not turning on. It may be like a certain time of year they only allow it to be turned on because it's not quite summer yet. But anyway, that's the splash pad / free showering area if you live close by. For the longest time when I moved in the beginning as well, I didn't have a bed frame. I just had a mattress that I'd put on the floor. And I eventually went to, we have a lake here called Keystone Lake. And there was one time when the water was real high and there was a bunch of driftwood. So I went and got a bunch of driftwood, brought it back here and made a twin bed frame out of that wood. And that was my bed while I lived there. But prior to that, I actually remember enjoying it even more, just having my mattress on the ground. I had a TV. And this was back in the days of Blockbuster. I actually worked at Blockbuster. And so I loved in my downtime when I just needed a moment to relax. I remember just laying down on that mattress up in there in the summertime. I had my little window unit AC. At the time, there was a ton of vines that, like this really cool plant that grew on the corner side right there. And it was such this cozy little place. And I remember loving just laying down, watching a movie from Blockbuster, and how good that felt. Like how much I loved that. In the mornings, I would walk down this alley. There's a Quick Trip that's really close by, and I would get like a milk and a pastry. And I would eat it walking back. I particularly remember that when I was editing the Turtleneck Club movie at that time. I was delivering newspapers, and I was able to work. I had to get up super late or early, whatever that is. And I worked for 4 hours, maybe 5 hours, had to deliver those papers. But the rent on this was like $150 a month. Because at the time when I moved in, it didn't have a shower. And that was the other thing, is the guy that lived in the house that was the landlord was such a cool guy. It did not have the stereotypical feeling of landlord at all. Someone that I would love to run into even today. And so the newspaper route, I probably made like $1,100 a month, something like that, doing it. And I could totally live off of that. And I remember that was such a great time where I could wake up, walk down and get the breakfast, eat it walking back, and then spend my day editing the movie. I didn't really know a lot about editing at that point, so I was learning a ton. So when you see the computer stuff in the video, that's kind of what that was all about. The hard drives, the old school iMac that you're gonna see in there. Also, I had a friend that lived really close by. It was incredible how it worked out. One of my best friends that I grew up with had an apartment within walking distance, and that was such an incredible thing to live so close by to such a good friend, and for us to grow up and share this time period together. And he was exploring all kinds of creative stuff he was trying to do. I was exploring all the creative stuff I was trying to do. He would help me take photo shoots of crazy stuff I would do. I was experimenting with like doing a blog and having websites and, you know, just trying to figure out my creative path forward and what that looked like, and trying all kinds of things. And, you know, he helped with that, and I'd help him and take photos of stuff for him that he was doing when he was starting his art and all of that. And one funny story about that is, in the winter time, he was over hanging out, and he went into the bathroom to use the bathroom. And then he came out and he goes, Jonathan, like, I just peed on ice. Like, it was so cold, the toilet water had froze, and he literally peed on ice. I go in there and look at it, and I'm like, I remember when the shower was not there, and it was just this open wall. It was just open. And I was using the bathroom in there, and a squirrel like popped its head out like right here by me. And I'm just like looking at this squirrel mid-pee. And that, I think that was close. I think it was shortly after that where I was like, okay, I'm going to build a shower in here. And there's many more memories I could share. I lived here for about 6 or 7 years. And it was just such a rich time and experience. And, you know, it's interesting because I remember when I had an exterminating job after I had left this, that was one of the things that I did. And I pulled up to this house, really nice house, and had a pool. And I mean, it was just like the dream, what most people would consider their dream home above and beyond. And I'm there to do the exterminating stop, spray the product around. And then the guy in the driveway, I realized I recognized him, and he was a guy that I had worked at a restaurant with. He was a bartender. Really fun guy, really, you know, unique sense of humor. And I think of, like, when you watch movies from the 1990s, there's just a spirit of just like innocence and fun to it. And that's like the feeling that I would use to describe that same time period working at that restaurant. And he was definitely one of those guys that could be right in one of those movies. I mean, such a fun person. And I remember seeing him, and he just seemed drained. I mean, he just seemed exhausted. And he pulled up in his vehicle, and he was just like, oh, hey, man. Yeah. You know, like, we recognized each other and we talked. I mean, you could just tell he had just like the weight of the world on him, and was obviously doing something completely different, had a different job and all that. And then we were talking about that time of working at that restaurant. And then a smile kind of came on his face. He was like, oh man, those were such good times. He was like, man, I miss that, you know? And that is really probably the best way I can describe the same feeling for me, what it felt like to leave here. I went on to also have my own house, and it was better, right? It was all this stuff. And don't get me wrong, there were some things that were negatives to this, you know. Someone tried to break in to the front door to try to get in while I was in there. I was walking back one day down the alley, and someone was trying to open the window of my downstairs neighbor and get in there. And, you know, this thing leaked. The roof leaked in the back, and it had like 5 or 6 areas that would drip water. The smell, the mold, you know, there were some downsides to it as well. But when you leave a situation like this, and similar to the story I just told you about the bartender that I worked with, is you tend to leave behind the adventure and the journey and the happiness and the carefreeness of life. And you just get stuck in a situation where you're just paying bills and doing repetitive things, and you feel like every moment is an emergency, you know, that you have to attend to just keep things going. And that's definitely what I sensed from him. But, you know, me now having left this, me having a house of my own, I totally understand what he was talking about, you know, like what he meant in saying that, because I absolutely had those same moments. So the thing for me And the purpose behind this Camp Shark Smarts YouTube channel, the purpose behind the Camp Shark Smarts course is figuring out how do you move on to a place where you're not getting broken into, you're not dealing with like leaks and mold and other challenges, but how do you move on from something like this and be able to get to, you know, solve those other issues, some of those financial issues, but still be able to maintain that same spirit and feeling of what it was like to live the adventure and live the journey. And so that is really the whole point of Camp Shark Smarts and where the inspiration behind all that came from and why it's so important to me to address it and come up with these answers for myself and anybody else like me that's creative and artistic and they don't want it to end. You know, I had a shed that I put in my backyard when I started a resale business called Shed Stash. And that really became like this Cheyenne apartment. That's what I called it, the Cheyenne apartment. That really became the Cheyenne apartment that I took with me and was able to keep with me. But anyway, I had a friend who was an awesome videographer and I hired him to come get some shots inside the apartment, also outside the apartment, also different times of year, also surrounding areas. And then I took that footage and edited it together and made a video out of it. So now I'll go ahead and show you the video that I made when I was moving out, and you can see the Cheyenne apartment in all its glory. As a creative or artist, you can spend a lifetime trying to figure out how to do things other people already know how to do easier and faster. That's why the Camp Shark Smarts YouTube channel is all about sharing simple, quick wins that reveal how to get past the challenges and onto the fun part as fast as possible. Becoming a part of the community is free, and every week I'll send you a simple, quick win that will make it easier to start, run, and grow your business. To join the email list and receive your first win, just click the link in the description. Also, make sure to let me know what you thought of today's video in the comments. And if you know of an even better solution to today's topic, I'd love to hear about it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the community.